How's it going, guys? And welcome back to another Q&A. Today we're joined with Mod Ash, Mod Kieran, Ian, Ronan, Mod John C, and Mod Alfred, and myself. Okay. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be switching between some questions I have here. I guess I'll talk into this. And then we'll be alternating, so we have a microphone somewhere in the crowd somewhere. If you have a question, when we say we'll go to the audience for one, just throw your hand up. Yeah? Cool. All right. So we'll start with these ones. All right. How many RuneFests have you all been to? You have a microphone. We'll just be...
Ooh. 1.
5.
3. 2.
2.
1.
2. I'm not the worst. All right. That's good. Okay. What's your favorite thing about RuneFest? You don't all have to answer individually. If anybody
Probably all
wants to.
the new content that we show off.
Yeah?
Or going to be showing off anyway later.
The free bar.
The number of people that approach me and are very rude off the mark. So many mean comments.
Meeting the players.
Same for me, just meeting all the people I know. It's tons of fun. Getting to talk RuneScape to people.
Yeah. I'd agree with Alfie in saying introducing new content because you get to see a more genuine reaction as opposed to something that somebody might type on the internet where they might decide to edit their words or whatever. They're a lot more genuine, yeah. All right, a couple of personal ones here before we get to the chat. Which JMod is the best PKer? All right. I decided that question. We 1v1, I won.
Most of them are pretty bad.
Okay. Which JMod is the best PVMer?
Me.
Kieran and John. Ooh, really? Okay. Skiller, that's going to be John? Yeah, I'll take that. All right. Fair play. Yeah. Let's go to the audience for a couple then, yeah? If we can find that microphone. If you have a question, throw your hand up, please. Just one. Wow, come on.
Hello. Hi. What like questions can I just ask? Like
anything.
Just any about the game.
Okay.
Even just about the game.
Mostly anything.
Just I want more Barbarian Assault updates. That's it. That's all I want. That's what I'm going to say.
Fair play. Ash?
Well, the Barbarian Assault code is one of the most scary things we've got, but I bet I can take it.
Okay. Fair play. Any more? One in the back? Yeah?
Now sailing has actually failed. What's next?
In terms of new skills, that's pretty much it for the time being. We're running a survey. We sent out an email to people that did vote no for sailing, wanted to find out why. When the feedback comes back in, we'll have a look at it, see what can be done, and if we think we can get it over the passing mark, we'll have a look. But I don't expect anything to happen anytime soon with skills.
On the other hand, Ash, go ahead.
So there's quite a lot of people who have said over the time that they didn't want a new skill because they'd like us to do more with the existing skills first. And, you know, if there's skills that don't have anything above the mid-80s, maybe we should do more with the existing skills before we put in a new one. Which might mean that a year down the line when we have done more high-level skilling updates, maybe there'll be more market for a new skill than there is at the moment. But for the moment, we're not going to just keep bashing sailing at you. We have some other ideas up our sleeves, and we will very happily do those for now.
Yep. And in terms of like large-scale updates, we have some very big things to talk about very shortly. That's at 3 p.m.
Yes.
Very exciting things. If we could hint right now, I totally would, but we can't. All right. Back to the questions then. General favorite experience since working on the old school team?
Working on the Abyssal Sire for me.
Yeah.
Resizable mode?
The moment when we removed AFKing and splashing, and we were in Clan Wars recording it when all of the people, just hundreds of them, just disappeared. It's beautiful.
I'm going to say Zora. I really like working on that one.
I'm going to say the same as Ronan, actually, removing AFK splashing.
Yeah. You get Ash. GE. Ash said GE. Okay. Mine would be something completely unrelated to something I typically do, but I was fortunate enough to stumble upon something that could have been a big bug, and I kind of helped stop it, which was pretty cool. Yeah, that was nice. All right.
He was tracking that player, watching videos, watching streams, tracking down where they'd been seen on YouTube, trying to find everything they had possibly done so he could get enough information to start tracking them on the back-end systems. And that's quite a lot of, well, I don't like to say cyber stalking, but investigative analysis he was doing on social media. I was very impressed.
Thank you very much.
Right. You should see him when he's banning gamblers.
Let's not.
No, it's brilliant. He's like, oh, this guy has 50 mil. Poof. And you get... It's brilliant.
I don't do that. I don't do that. Okay. What's your favorite piece of content that did not pass a poll?
Sailing.
Yes. Going to be sailing. Going to be sailing, yeah.
Sailing for me as well.
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same page. Yeah? All right. Favorite potential future update that hasn't been pulled yet? Something that might come in 2016?
Mine would be the suggestion of the skilling clue scrolls that you'd get like a clue scroll in like a jar when you're fishing, that sort of thing. It was suggested on Reddit quite a while ago when we talked about it on the Q&A.
That thing Kieran and Chris are going to tell you about at 3 on the big stage.
Yeah. Ooh.
A little personal project I've been working on which will allow you to scale all the interfaces in the game, so we're probably going to have to pull that at some point.
Yep.
What Ian said.
What Alfie tells you about at 3 o'clock on the main stage.
What I say at 3 o'clock on the main stage.
Okay, yeah, same thing. One more, we'll go back to the audience. Let's see, what's your oldest memory from when you first began playing? Not your favorite memory, your oldest memory. When you first created your account, what's the one thing that sticks? I'll start, all right? I didn't really work for it. My friend gave me a mithril dagger. I cherished it so much. It was the best thing I ever had. That was it.
I don't really remember my first, but you know, when Bounty Hunter first came out, PKing in an Amulet of Fury, like, I just thought that was pretty.
You're pretty tough.
Yeah, it was pretty
tough with that Fury.
Yeah.
Okay. What about leveling your defense?
That was a good experience. Okay.
I remember dying to a cow. I was collecting cow hides on a new account like 10 years ago, and I died and lost like half an invent of cow hides, and that really upset me.
Got scammed for a black plate body.
That's when Ronan started to PK the rune crafters.
Shearing sheep in the original Devious mod, does that count?
Yeah, definitely.
My earliest memory would be training in the Stronghold of Security, getting my 10k for free.
I was in Port Sarim in Classic, and suddenly this player, Andrew, said hello, and I knew Andrew and got nervous and ran away. And the next week when I met him in a bar again, he said, "Why did you run away?" That was slightly embarrassing.
All right, we'll go to the chat. If you have a question, put your hand up, please.
Chat as an audience. He said chat.
Did I say chat? I said chat. Okay.
Thoughts on adding like a freezing effect to the Searcole special attack, similarly to the Bolus pre-EOC?
To the boss.
Like,
Okay. Yeah. Thoughts on buffing the, giving something to the circle to make it useful. Okay, we straw pull that. Yeah? Okay. Who thinks the circle is useless? Show of hands. This is really good. Thank you. Wow. That's very good. Who agrees to a freezing special attack?
Let's say 10 seconds.
Similar to the what was it? Bolas? Bolas? 10 seconds. This is looking like a
It was like
4%.
maybe 2 people.
Yeah. It's only Ian. 100% accuracy.
Nah, OP.
Or like the ZGS spec or something. We can splash?
Yeah, we can splash.
Okay. You know what? I'll work my way there, but I have a different suggestion for the circle. Good question. Anyone else? One at the back there. We can hear you. It's all right.
Hello. It's been asked many times about the damage with Iron Men. If someone else has damaged something and it's not getting the kill, but if we're, say, getting kill count at Bandos and we get lucky if 3 kills a trip, most of the time 2, is there any way that we can find out if we're going to get the kill before we go in and lose our KC? It's like really annoying if we go in and you deal damage like 99% of its health and sorry, you don't get this drop because you're an Iron Man and you stand alone.
Everyone heard that? Yeah.
We'd have to find a way of giving you the message where it won't just come up every time you hit the thing. I don't want to solve this by spamming you until you give up and go away. There's also the matter that we need you to get the message outside the room, which is a fair bit harder than when you're clicking on the thing. I think we could find a way of giving the message, provided the thing's present and not busy. We should be able to find out if anyone's got points against it already. Not entirely sure, though, so it's not a guarantee, but it's certainly worth a try. There's also the matter that we could look at ways of making things regenerate faster if they're abandoned for a lengthy period of time. That's not suitable for all bosses, because I know there's some where people actually like to come back and carry on their kill from where they left off. But I think for God Wars, that's not so applicable.
At least from the point of view of making it visible, there's certainly an engine backlog job for allowing different appearances of hit bars above creatures' heads and different types of hit marks. So potentially there could be some toggleable feature for Iron Man where it shows you a different hit mark or head bar if you're not going to get the drop from it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next question. Anyone else?
Do you have any new mug tricks for us today?
Oh no.
On top of the speakers, that list is going to be good.
Plan on reviving
That
javelins
applause
at all?
will not be matched for the entire day.
Do you guys plan on reviving javelins at all?
Yeah, actually, I've got a question about that too. I've got a question about everything you guys are asking. This is fantastic. If I can find it. Okay. Hurricos is a player. Suggestion, ballistas. You seen this? Yep. Ballistas are a very heavy and slow two-handed ranged weapon. They fire javelins, which are obtained from the ranging guild, pest control shops, monster drops, etc. They can be fletched into throwing knives. Thoughts on this?
To be honest, the answer I was going to give is, yeah, I like the idea of doing something with javelins. Have you seen this idea about ballistas that's been floating around the internet lately? That one.
Yeah. We are in favor of the idea.
When I mentioned hand cannon on an old stream, people said, no hand cannon, no, that's specs OP. But they said that they wanted a hard-hitting range weapon. So I think slow, hard-hitting with javelins could be nice.
Yeah. I've lost my questions. Let's get one more from the chat. Audience.
Hello. Do you see Old School becoming bigger than RS3 at any point? And if so, do you have anything to counter that with or help with that?
Anyone dare? We're not here to compete with RS3. We are here to provide the Old School game as a service for them as wants it, and RS3 provides the service for them that wants that. And there's quite a lot of people go back and forth between them all the time anyway, tens of thousands, we think. So it might be that there'll be times when we've got more people online or when we've got maybe more active users over a given period. But we're not exactly keeping score here. And ultimately, we do draw on them for resources occasionally, just as they draw on us for resources. So while it's always nice to see two things, then try and treat them as a competition, that's not really how RuneScape is supposed to operate. And you can tell that I am waffling right around that question.
Thank you, Modash. All right. Back to the sheet. What is your favorite social media platform?
Twitter.
Anyone else?
Twitter as well. It's just the easiest to use. Ronan, you're the community manager, so would you like to answer it?
Meme maker, Ronan?
I just want to make this really clear. I hate memes. Memes are terrible. Stop putting this label on me. It hurts me on the inside. I'd say Snapchat.
Snapchat. Okay. John C says Google Plus.
Probably say Twitch.
Yeah.
Twitch.
Twitch? Is Twitch social media?
Oh, well, for
that
other
counts.
people it is,
Yeah, yeah, that counts. I'll say Twitch too.
I genuinely have no idea how to use Google Plus.
I don't think anyone knows. Okay. How many RuneScape accounts have you created total? I'll start. Yeah. 5? Like 3 peers?
I think it's just 4 for me.
Just 2. The main I had before I worked at Jagex and Modash.
Yeah, I think probably just 2 playing accounts, 1 Iron Man, 1 normal, and yeah, the JMod account.
I don't know, like 20 odd. They were all rubbish, but it counts.
I want to say 5. I've got my main. I had a couple of Zerka, I had 1 Defense Pure, Skiller, and something else that I can't quite remember.
I had 1 on RS3. It was a Zerka. It's nothing anymore. And I have 1 on Old School. That's it.
So 13 defense pure.
that is a thing, you know, yeah.
That's not a thing.
It is a
okay.
thing.
What is your favorite area in RuneScape? I'll start, yeah. The Abyssal Sire Lair?
I'll go for that too.
Falador. When I was quite new as a content developer, they let me do all the coding for the graphics improvement project when it became the shiny white city. I didn't have much involvement in the graphics side of it, but there was all these NPCs. I could just actually write dialogue for them. It's one of the first things I got much autonomy on, and I had a lot of fun doing it, so I've always liked Falador ever since.
Anyone else?
Well, my favourite area is actually the lava dragons, but if we're talking about best looking areas,
yeah.
I don't know. I like Canifis a lot. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where Ronan's is. It's just outside the Corp Cave.
People forget to protect item. It's bank loot.
It's terrible. I like the Wilderness Volcano in the northeastern corner. It just looks awesome.
Let's go back to the chat. Audience. Let's go back to the audience for a couple. I've done this a couple too many times.
Hello. Hypothetically, if D-Claws were to pass a poll, don't give me that look, Ronan. What do you think would be the best way to implement them? As in a sort of Grandmaster quest and then a boss afterward, or just a general boss that anyone could kill, and then it'd be the drop from that?
Max Guild.
Okay, so let's say at the beginning of that question, let's just say Dragon Claws, right? So Dragon Claws, running?
No. People always ask this, and to sum it up quickly, they're 60 attack requirement versus the 75 the AGS. They're faster, the spec deals more damage, and they... what else is there? They look pretty cool.
Cheaper?
But, yeah, cheaper too. Yeah. Although, would they be?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends how they're implemented.
Assuming we're comparing to the AGS.
Basically, they're OP, so we're never going to do them.
If we were to consider them, they might be with like a lesser or more spec required per spec and lesser damage, something like that.
But then you might as well just do a different weapon.
Yeah.
And not call it D-Claws, because it isn't D-Claws.
Okay, fair enough. Anyone else?
Never used a mark before, so it's a bit weird.
Sorry.
And my next question would be, would you ever consider doing next since you did Corporal Beast? Obviously, not Tor and Pernix and Virtus being as OP as it is, but more rebalanced and more structured to the old school.
Speaking as someone who really loved Next when it came out, personally, I think it'd be fun to go back to doing that again, but we can do something better. We can do something unique, and we've proved that with Abyssal Sire. We can do complicated boss mechanics and recreate something of that difficulty, of that challenge, and push it further.
See, when I come back to old school and think of RuneScape in back of the day, one of the everything that always comes is God War and Next. That's what represents the old retro RuneScape what I used to play. It's the major boss, what I think. I suppose I see old a bit further back than that, but I get your point. That was a very good time for many people. For what it's worth, somebody did go and dig out the old Next models and try converting them over to the old school format just to see what happened. And he went and tweeted a picture of having done it.
And it wasn't a whole horde of, yes, do this, that he got back. So next might be a step too far for a lot of people. On the other hand, we can develop bosses of that nature. I don't really want us to spend months working on something that's going to be a kind of cheap knockoff of something that everyone's seen before. We did it with Corp. We did it very carefully to make it not be a cheap knockoff. But I think with Next, it would not look as good ultimately, because what we can do with our engine is different to what RS3 could do in those days. And I would rather produce something that's unique to Old School, that's as good as it can be, rather than something where everyone says, well, yeah, I suppose you copied it as best you could.
One more from the audience.
As a proud owner of one pet, and I know that many people have over 20, is there any sort of update as to if you're going to release something for someone who has completed or gathered all pets?
Ooh, an all-pet pet?
I would like to give you something so that you could show off how many boss pets you've got, not just if you've got all of them, but some kind of like banner or something. So
Could you have like some massive culmination, like you take the leg of the Abyssal Orphan and you had the head of the Hell Puppet, Sarah?
we could. I'd like to give you something like that, and hopefully you will see something soon. If you've got any ideas, feel free to ping me a tweet.
Good question. All right, back to the questions here then. If you had to change your mod name, what would you change it to? Mod Goku?
Mod John Cena, right?
Yeah, it would be Mod John Cena, yeah.
No one else?
Mod Schlee, it's the other end of Ash.
Probably Mod Splasher or Mod Onion.
Mod What Does Even Do All Day?
Mod, I'm a mod honest, because my current mod name doesn't say mod in front of it, so I get reported for impersonating staff. And my goggles have just fallen to bits, sorry.
Yep, a little story time, I guess. Where did the rotten potato originate from?
So we were launching the farming skill, and that's a fairly complicated thing, which you can't really test in-game by setting variables very easily. With it going out, we needed a thing that JMods could click on that would let them accelerate farming so that we could test bits of it that might malfunction in the live game. So we needed an item that we could give ourselves and click on. And we wanted it to look fairly innocuous in the database of items so that people reading through the client code who see all the lists of items, wouldn't see JMod helper item. They'd see something that looked like it belonged there, like a rotten potato. You've got farming coming out, why should there not be a rotten potato coming out from farming? So we called it the rotten potato. We gave it ops like peel and slice and mash and eat. Yeah, because you do it with a rotten potato. And we just kept it like that because even though we could have called it anything, and I'm sure players would fully understand us wanting a helper item like that, it was a rotten potato and we all thought it was funny by then. More recently, we've acquired ourselves the rotten egg for things that won't fit on the potato.
And the ops on the rotten egg are?
I can't remember.
I believe it's like pickle, fry, beat, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Scramble as well, yeah.
There you go. All right, back to the audience. Anyone have a question? Hands up, please.
Do you guys have any intentions on making a monster that has the similar mechanics to TDs, even if we don't get claws, but something with those mechanics in combat?
The prayer switching is something I like.
Yeah, me too. I really like the mechanics of Tormented Demons, and encouraging the player to switch weaponry as well as prayers is definitely something that can be used elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a tough one, if not to take the mechanic and not actually take the name of the monster and mimic the look of it, and then of course the reward. Yeah.
Yes and no, actually. Before Tormented Demons, Titan created some guards in the, I think, 4th Myaki quest. You fought them in the top room at Patadomus Temple, and they had the same kind of prayer switching behaviour, not quite as extreme, but he was working towards creating tormented demons in those days and experimenting with what he could do on a simpler NPC. And well, it's a perfectly legit mechanic we can use on anything at all without it being a demon or a big flaming demon or a tormented anything. So at the moment, we've not tried writing very many things that have prayer effects in Old School, but we can, and we could do that without it having to be a tormented demon. On the other hand, there's the way players might perceive it, like, oh yeah, you've done tormented demons, but they don't drop anything good. You might not actually like it, but there's nothing stopping us.
I think what tends to happen with some of these good ideas that come from the past, suggestions, is some players are extremely for them and some are extremely against them, whether that's associated with some negative memories. Maybe they died a lot to them, I don't know. But really just comes down to, would this pass a poll? Because it has to pass a poll. And that's really the tough question. It's typically not too likely. It's a really tough one. It has to be a really solid idea to pass 75%. Yeah. One last one from the audience. Anyone else?
Hello. Ronan, unblock me on Twitter. Thank you.
If I've blocked you, it's probably for a reason.
Right, back to the questions. Is this how you envisioned Old School to turn out after 2.5 years? More one for the guys who were here from the beginning?
I have to say, I think it was expected that people would all turn up at the beginning of 2013 and have a few months of cool nostalgia. And after that, it would just be a small thing that's available for them as wants to log into it, but it would be an unsupported product. Except, well, you guys, the players, made it be more by wanting it to be more and by carrying on playing it. And for that, I'm extremely grateful because I'm having a heck of a good time writing for it. And I hope to be doing it for a very long time yet. But no, we didn't see it coming. And we're very, very glad it's turned out different to how we expected.
It started out with 3 or 4 people.
Myself, Mod Nexus, that's another content developer, Mod Reach, that's our QA tester, and raise a glass to absent friends, I guess. But and Mod Matt K joined us a week or so later, asked the community guy to talk to the players and see what you all wanted, and that was just going to be a small little thing. We just really didn't think we'd be here that much later, or that people would say they wanted God Wars or expansion or new content that didn't exist in RS3. It's been a lot more fun than that.
Awesome. Okay. What are your thoughts when someone says, that's not Old School enough? So relevant to Next. Some people might say, that doesn't belong in Old School, it's not Old School.
It's really different for everyone. Everyone has a good idea of what was Old School for them. Some people like 2005, 2006. Some people are closer to like 2010. So it really varies. So all we can do is try and do stuff that'll pass 75% on a poll.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes, all right, yeah, you're probably right, that wouldn't be very Old School. Like, there's a few things that were very jarringly not the game it used to be when they came out. End of 2007, for example, when we got the trade restrictions, that was so not the game anymore. No PvP in the wilderness, that's not how I see RuneScape and how a lot of people didn't see RuneScape. So that kind of thing we'd avoid like the plague. But in terms of new content going in, if we could have imagined the game having it in 2007, then we will give it a reasonable credence now and see if the players agree with us.
Yeah, all right. Last one, I'll go back to the audience. One for Alfred, I think. Okay. Max Cape.
All right, yeah. Max Cape. So when we first polled it, I think most of the players wanted it to be as original as possible to the RuneScape 3 one currently. At the moment, I've put it in game, and it is given it is a bit glitchy because it's so detailed. So I will have to go in and change it up a little bit. But the main thing is the emote. So if anyone has any ideas on an emote, just feel free to tweet me. But yeah.
Yeah. For those that don't know, the Max Cape is going to have the same stats as a Skill Cape. We did pull it to have the same stats as a Fire Cape that didn't pass. Yeah. So that'll be in game in a week?
Probably no, not
2?
in a week. I'm not saying when.
Okay.
Maybe
It'll be in a game soon.
Yeah, soon.
You can't handle the pressure.
Any more from the audience? Hands up.
On the topics of capes, Mod Ghost draw a new Tarkar Cow kind of cape. As I was speaking to Mod Ash about earlier, is anything going to happen with that? And what stats would you expect to put on it? Would it be double the strength of fire, or...?
It would obviously be an improvement over the fire cape if it ever did come out.
I'm guessing you're talking about that later, how everyone's looking at me. Yeah, okay.
Not
I'll let
saying
someone else
anything.
talk. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, just watch us on main stage at 3.
We'll be doing we'll be doing a stream at 3. There we go. All right, we have some content-related questions. So I ran out of interesting personal questions. Burritos asks, will Deadman mode be hooked up to the warehouse, the data warehouse?
It certainly the intention to. In fact, I think even the prototype we've got running in the PC room today is logging data so we can see how people interact with it, what kind of problems people are hitting, what kind of things cause people to log off. So obviously also your feedback, you give us your feedback directly, that's even better than us trying to figure it out from just looking at numbers on the back end. So if you've got feedback on Deadman mode, please give it to us today.
Another one for you, actually. Phony asks, if something needs to be changed after Deadman launches, will it have to wait until the next Thursday, or will anything, do you think, warrant a hotfix?
I mean, as always, anything which is, clearly an unintended consequence, apart from past mistakes, which we will try to look past, we're going to try and fix this stuff as quickly as possible before it gets to be a big problem. We can hotfix a lot of things. If something's really major, we can do a cold fix, although we prefer to avoid that if possible, obviously.
For those that don't know, a hotfix is when something hits right into the game
so
immediately.
for a hotfix, we can update the live game without having to reboot the servers, because no one likes getting kicked offline whilst the servers go down. For a cold fix, we have to reboot everything, so that tends to be reserved for actual major bugs as opposed to just minor feedback.
Quite simply, there's a lot more we can do by rerouting the servers with a cold fix that we couldn't have done as a hot fix. Any bug we can fix without rebooting, we will fix without rebooting. And sometimes we just do trivial things because we can as a hot fix, like sticking in extra messages for things occasionally. But if there's a problem with Deadman mode, we'll try and deal with it. Sometimes it gets a bit more awkward if some see people see it as a problem, other people don't see it as a problem, and we might take a bit longer to decide whether it's a problem or not before knee-jerk reaction to reprogram the game to make it change. But if there's something needs doing, we will try and deal with it.
Cool.
One thing I'd say about Deadman mode is that there are going to be a lot of corner cases we haven't thought of, because it is a completely new game mode in terms of people finding ways of getting around the various sort of punishments for dying, or finding ways of hiding away when it's really meant to be a dangerous, very engaged sort of game. So we will be trying to patch those corner cases and fix things as quickly as possible.
And if you do run into anything, the in-game bug report system is pretty quick?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. A couple more from the audience then?
Working? Yeah. So basically, there's been a lot of Slayer updates and stuff, and that's cool. But for PvP, are you ever going to introduce Statius, Vesta, and all that in any kind of way? Because I'd love to see that in the game.
If I could, yes. If I could, yes.
If you could.
If I could,
can.
yes. But it's failed numerous times, so we're probably never going to do PvP armor.
Shame. D-claws.
Yeah. That is a tough one. Would not pass a poll.
Yeah, anything to do with pures recently, like if it's in a poll, people will vote no. Don't know why.
Anyone else? Okay.
Is there any content that's gone into game that you didn't approve of or didn't like at all, but the community wanted it?
Let's say maybe not didn't like, but let's say maybe content that you didn't really love. Is there any content that's made it into game that you didn't absolutely love?
The mining skill. It's terrible. Like, what?
I think that's a no.
That is a good thing, right? That is a good thing.
I mean, to be honest, yes, we poll everything, but then we set the questions for what's in the poll. So generally, we do put some thought into, is it something we'd like in game as well? Obviously, if there's something that the community as a whole is asking for, then we will try to pull that as well. But, you know, we do actually get a say over what goes into our own game as well.
Yeah, cool. Anyone else?
I'd also say that there's a few things that I like as updates, like the wilderness rejuvenation. I like it. There's a few aspects of it that I think we could have done better. Some of the design of the bosses up there, for example, might leave a bit to be desired. And sometimes we've ended up having to go with fairly awkward solutions to problems that arose after launch, like the way Venenatis now behaves. So, yeah, I love the wilderness rejuvenation. I'm glad we did it. I do feel, however, that if we were doing it in 2015, we would maybe do it better than we did last time.
All right, next question.
So to do with boss pets again, I guess. Let's just say some of us have spent a while killing bosses for boss pets. Is there anywhere that we could get like a way to see who's got what kill count on a certain boss, like maybe boss KC high scores, or like to examine a boss pet and see what kill count a certain person has got? Yeah.
I think Matt answered this on the Thursday Q&A, and he said that once we have, what was it, some virtual server or something set up, it's not that complex of a thing to get the high score pages up, so it is something that we can look into, but I think it will require work from the web team, who are always very, very busy people.
Anyone else?
Actually, this got asked 2 weeks ago, and John blew it off immediately. But as a PVMer, we have these dead mechanics so long that when the servers get stable again, we actually, I've talked about it a lot in the clan, and we think we really need gravestones, or at least a poll that the mechanics stay this way.
So was that asking for gravestones? Yeah.
So there's a few of the mechanics we've put in during the DDoSing that I would like to see the back of. In particular, the way many untradables just stay in your inventory or stay equipped when you die. I would like that mechanic gone, and I would be reluctant to even offer the chance to keep that mechanic after the others are changed back. However, while by default items should go back to appearing on the ground for only a couple of minutes, we would be open to running polls for extending that, or maybe going further like you're describing. I think there might be a fair bit of demand for making them stay longer than the 2 minutes that it used to be. So yeah, we can talk about that. But while we'd also hoped that we were getting to a point where we could take out these mechanics, I think the last 2 weeks suggest that that is not the case yet. So it'll be a while.
Okay. Got about 10 minutes maybe. Try to rush through some of these. Okay. Assuming you can track who has the most XP in dead man mode, can you also track who has the most money? 5 more minutes, okay. Assuming you can track who has the most XP in dead man mode. Yeah.
What, like a high score table for cash? Again, it's probably going to involve some work with web systems, but we can definitely set things up to track other things. I think we've had high score tables for things on the main game before, which are not explicitly XP related, have we? Or did that never get? Yeah, various other mini games. So there's definitely support in the web systems for that sort of thing. Have to discuss it with them to check the exact implementation details, though.
You really would not want to be on that high scores of most wealthy dead man player.
For what it's worth, the web team already did a fair bit of work towards letting us have high scores of things that aren't XP. It's because we'd asked for minigame high scores, a fairly popular topic over the last 2 years. And they did a lot of work towards that, but not quite enough to let us have it and launch it. We would like them to be able to come back and finish the job so we can have minigame high scores, which could then also be used for any other purpose at all, like you're describing here.
Okay. Will Old School ever get rest?
I was going to just say no, but then quite a few people were like, yes.
Quite a few people are like, no.
I certainly wouldn't want to devalue agility, though. And that's the problem with it. We've got stamina potions. I don't think it's too much of an issue anymore because of them.
I think it's an issue in free-to-play. That's about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure we could do something just for free to play, really.
Yeah. Again, this would have to pass a poll. You know, all right, sure, straw poll. Should Old School get rest? Hands up. 2. Okay. There's your answer.
That matches the earlier one.
Okay. Cleaner asks, will Old School ever get HD textures, particles, what have you?
No.
Mod Alfred?
Yeah, I don't think we have the capability for that.
Yep.
Yeah. Just don't.
I
The
think
engine's not good enough at the moment.
Aiming to maintain that Old School feel as best as possible.
Unless there's a massive shift in community opinion, I don't think anyone really wants that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. The Gimo asks, how much tea does Mod Ash drink a day?
About 4 of these.
Okay, 1 second. Can Mod Kieran say, I'll have a look in my cookery book?
I'll have a look in my cookery book.
Thank you. Okay.
Satisfied?
Okay. Fluffy asks, would it be possible to indicate who currently has the most damage dealt to a boss? Dealt to a boss. Move the mic.
It's easier where it's a room with, finite edges, like the Corp Cave. For things that are roaming the wilderness that could have any number of people interacting with them, rather harder. But for the ones that have rooms, I think we'd have a chance.
From a player perspective, doing a lot of PVM, that would actually be a really helpful thing to have, I think.
Although loot share might obviate it, and we want that.
Okay.
I'd really like loot share too.
Lawler asks, what are your thoughts on buffing the special attacks of the Abyssal Bludgeon and Dagger?
It's definitely something we can look into. The Dagger, well, both of them are really good primary weapons anyway. The Bludgeon is a top-tier crush weapon, and it can train strength at 70 attack. Crush weapons in general are decent in PvP anyway, because armor has low crush defense generally. But the spec is kind of lackluster. I think we spoke about potentially reducing the spec cost to 25% rather than 50%, just so you get a few more shots at a big combo.
Yeah.
Because it does have a decent chance of getting the double hit splat and dealing a massive hit. And the Bludgeon, we did potentially, we discussed upping the damage slightly on the spec. So it's something that we are considering because we do want them to be valuable weapons, which they will be anyway, but the specs, it'd be nice if they were useful.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you mentioned, the Bludgeon was not intended to be the best PvP weapon. It's the best crush weapon, PVM, obviously. And the Dagger kind of, I guess, was a bit more. So, yeah, we can consider that one.
Yeah, the Dagger is pretty useful because it's such a good stab weapon as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go this one from Benville. With the skill cape perks, will we be able to attach our hoods as well?
It's not something we're planning on offering just yet, purely because it will take another 25 objects to create and send out with it just for a little cosmetic bonus. It's purely the time just not quite being worth it for something cosmetic. If it becomes a top priority for you guys, we can push it up the list and get it done, but it's not something you'll see anytime soon. Soz.
All right, we've got some big ones we've answered 100 times. We'll try to get these out quick. Okay. Rigor and Augury.
We are more than open to Rigor and Augury. It's more of a matter of where it comes from. We offered it to come with Sailing. Sailing is not happening, so it's not going to come from there. We offered it from the minigame reward shop. It's not going to come from there. They're a pretty big thing, and it'd be nice to have some sort of requirement on it and lock it behind some sort of content, so you have to earn it. But it is something that we're more than open to doing.
Would you consider giving Rigor and Augury from a boss?
Yeah, like so they can drop a scroll that unlocks it kind of thing. Yes, we can do that. Which boss did you have in mind?
Maybe a new boss or something, just like one. You know, like if you had to kill a range boss to get the range prey, kill a mage boss to get the mage prey.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, it's just easy enough to do.
The thing here is it obviously has to make sense. Yeah. Okay. Stealing Creation, Fist of Gothics, mini games.
We can do those things, but with stealing creation, and the other big one that gets requested a lot is Soul Wars. The rewards are a big problem. Stealing creation, XP buff from the rewards is something that a lot of old school players would probably have a big issue with. And if there's not a solid incentive to go and do it, then it's not going to be a very populated minigame, and it would probably not be quite as fun. Same with Soul Wars. And generally, I think we'd sort of prefer to make original content in Old School that is made for Old School, rather than just doing a copy and paste job from RS3.
Okay.
Also, if we're going to put weeks of dev work into making something that we hope lots of people will be excited about, we'd like it to be something that isn't looking like a cheap knockoff of something from somewhere else. With the best will in the world, Soul Wars in RS3 will always look better than we could make Soul Wars look in our engine and as things currently stand. And it would look like a, well, poor knockoff copy rather than a piece of content for people to be excited about in the same way. I know it's a cosmetic thing, and cosmetic isn't so important to people, but to others it is, and going into an environment that's meant to be your Soul Wars and isn't your Soul Wars might take away a lot of the feel of getting your Soul Wars back.
Fair enough.
Making a similar minigame with similar mechanics, like lots of people collaborating to bring down the requirements of something so that more and more people can engage with it, that's the kind of mechanic we can use to make something original to Old School, but we wouldn't call it Soul Wars.
All right, I think we're
My suggestion was for Soil Wars, and it would be something to do with Brassica Prime.
Thank you. We're just nearly out of time, so we'll try to get one last one from the chat. Yeah, anyone?
Hello?
Yeah.
Why did the Godfather George scam the Elysian?
Does anybody else have a question? Genuinely, does anyone else have a question?
When can we have an improvement on NPC contact? Because the NPCs seem to be surprised every time you contact them.
I don't like that either, but I never felt it was worth the dev time to start messing with it. If people feel differently, then sure, we can treat it as a bigger issue and do something about it. For the moment, it kind of is as it was in 2007, and of all the things we could have been messing around with, we never chose that one.
Okay. I think we're just about out of time. Let's try to fit one last one. Sure.
My question would be about, say, mini games and PvP. Would it be possible to code it so that you get computer-generated players? So, because if it becomes dead content and you can't get enough players, at least that way you've always got a backup to have enough players, if you know what I mean. If that's ever a road that you take to create a PvP mini game or something.
Well, trying to imagine writing, say, a Castle Wars bot, something that navigates Castle Wars and tries to play. It wouldn't be very good necessarily. I mean, having all those really good tactics and responsiveness to players attacking is probably not something we're going to achieve. If you thought it would help, then we could certainly have a go, but it would take a very long time to not necessarily have a very good effect. It would just let you, have a game, and the opponents would almost certainly lose because you've got a rather good brain and can control a RuneScape account probably better than the AI is going to try and do it. But yeah, that would be worth a thought. It would at least let you play.
Okay. So we're just about out of time, guys, so we will thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us.